So quick question. How many of you listened to our show last week?
And you now are afraid the world's coming to an end, and Tony's made you think that you're an expert in global politics and oil distribution and all.
Actually, you're probably sitting there right now thinking, should I be doing something right now?
Like
Am I supposed to stockpile something?
Your wife's wanting you to take out the trash.
Well, I mean, yeah, your world might be falling apart, but the trash still has to go out.
And that might be the most stable thing you said in the last week.
Okay. So in part one, we talked about what's happening and why it might feel so heavy in your world right now.
And today we're going to talk about how that can make a difference in what really matters in life.
Basically, how you respond when the world can feel out of control.
Yeah, so let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome to the Pulpit and Porch. I'm Tony Marr, and with me as always is my friend Robert Kell.
Hey everybody, we are so glad you're here. The Pulpit and Porch is where we kick back, put up our feet, and have real conversations about life, faith, growth, and maybe even a little sports and pop culture.
If you're looking for a perfectly polished sermon, you're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah, around here, it's more about those honest, heart-to-heart conversations, like the one you'd have on a front porch with good friends. Sometimes we stay on track, sometimes we take the scenic route.
And honestly, that's half the fun, isn't it? We dig into the highs, the lows, and all the in-betweens of living out your faith in real life. Along the way, we may pull up a few extra chairs and invite some friends onto the porch to share stories and ideas that just may change the way that you see things.
So whether you're chasing your purpose, building your faith, or just trying to live a little more fully, pull up a chair, grab some sweet tea, and join us. This is the Pulpit and Porch. We got a seat waiting for you.
Hey, so I pulled into town about 9:30, 10 o'clock last night, and then had to get up early this morning to do some things and get ready for our show today. So I'm dragging, but there's something that we need to discuss before we dive into part two of our conversation on the world might be ending, the sky is falling, and what to do about it.
Is that the Braves are the only team in baseball that have not lost a series all season?
That's actually not what I was going for, but...
To have no pitching, we were driving the other day. The boys and I were talking about this because it's the only sport in our house that everyone pulls for the same team. So we don't pull for the same hockey teams, like college football, basketball. Most of them are Celtics fans now, but NFL, we do not pull for the same teams in anything like European soccer, whatever. But baseball is the one thing we're all Braves fans. And we were talking about this, and I'm going, we have Bryce Elbers and we have Chris Sale. I do not know one other pitcher on our rotation right now and couldn't name them if I had to.
Spencer Strider's just threw his second rehab start at AAA.
But he's not
so they're
with
saying
us.
By May 1st he'll be there.
Yeah, I think he needs to start skipping some leg days. He keeps having these quad strains and stuff. And I'm like, this isn't working. Okay, so you've got something that's worth sharing.
Yeah, well, I don't know that anything that I have is worth sharing, but we're going to talk about it, and maybe it's just between you and I. So I sent you an article the other day that one of my former professors wrote about.
And I read most of that.
You read most of it. So like the intro, the first paragraph?
No, I read probably 2/3 of it, and then something popped up, and I forgot to go back and finish it.
And it's not even about the article. It's about the fact that we have both seen a movie that you made a statement that blew me away in your response.
Yeah.
That I told you I thought the movie was good. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was earth-shattering, incredible. I thought it was fun. I'll put it that way. I thought it was a fun movie. It was a good way to spend 2.5 hours. And you wrote back and said that you thought it was the best movie you've seen in the last 5 years.
I do think it's one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years. And so I was actually trying to look up and see. I think you sent it through Messenger or something. I'd have to pull it up that way. And we're talking about Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary.
And I thought it was absolutely incredible. I thought the story was great. I thought Ryan Gosling. I have to always think about my Ryans. You've got Gosling and Reynolds, and it's hard for me sometimes to keep them straight, as they both are, icons in the acting world now. I am not saying it's as good as Castaway. I think it's better. What was the Will Smith movie where I Am Legend? Is that the one? He was like, I'm putting it on a level though of someone being able to carry a movie practically by themselves for an entire 2 hour slot. I thought he was fantastic. I loved the alien. I thought that just him learning to communicate and then seeing them really connect and do. I mean, everybody in our house has loved it.
I enjoyed the movie. I thought
Yeah.
it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
But it was a fun movie. And maybe that's just personality types.
Sure, I'm sure it is.
So Weir, is that the guy who wrote the book?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, it's
So he did The Martian.
Uh-huh.
I read the book of The Martian before I saw the movie.
and that was Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
The Martian, so the book was phenomenal.
Mhm.
Saw the movie as soon as it came out on theaters because I just finished the book and was really disappointed in the movie, as goes when you've read a book and then you watch a movie. We watched the movie again last week of The Martian, and I thought that it was great. Now, 10 years removed from having read the book and seen the movie the first time, I thought it was great. And so going into Project Hail Mary, I think that I was kind of expecting the same thing, and it's not. It's a comic book movie. It's not a serious movie. I mean, you've got a alien rock running around, and so I think that if I had gone into it with that understanding and that mindset, that this is just going to be a fun popcorn movie to watch for 2 hours. It's not something that's going to have me on the edge of my seat wondering what the next twist and turn is going to be. I enjoyed the movie. I genuinely thought it was a good movie, and you're right. Ryan Gosling Reynolds did a really good job. I thought that he was really good in the movie. It's not something that I would put on my top 10 list of movies of all time, but I did. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was a good movie. It was a fun movie.
Here's the tension and why I'm saying what I'm saying about it. So this is 2020 through 2024. So this is off just a little bit, and it's IMDb's top 100 movies, and I'm not going to go through all of these in that 5-year gap. Number one was Oppenheimer, which I have not seen, just
I
based
didn't
on
like
content.
it. I thought it was kind of boring.
With a couple of things. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse,
Don't think I've seen that.
Top Gun Maverick. Both of the Dunes are 4 and 5.
I've seen the first one.
I think I said that wrong, by the way. It's not Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. No Way Home was second one. Is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is 6. Soul, the Pixar movie.
Haven't seen that.
Then the Batman, the
Haven't
new
seen
reboot.
that.
Incredible. Really, really good. Robert, I always say his name wrong. Pattinson, the Twilight guy, Robert Pattinson. Really, really good. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. Again, it's.
I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was good, but it was a fun movie.
It was a fun movie.
I told my kids that I felt like Project Hail Mary was The Martian meets, or Castaway meets Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt like it was a mashup of those two movies.
I don't feel like it's in the same vein. And again, this is the beauty of opinions. It's kind of like if we ask each other our top 5 movies, like it's my opinion and that's your opinion. And I think that's the beauty of film. And I think it's why debate works. It's why things like, is it Michael Jordan or LeBron James? And it's always confusing to me that Kobe Bryant's not in that conversation. It's always confusing to me that as like, Wilt Chamberlain and people like that aren't in that conversation. It's always like, is it LeBron or Michael? And I'm like, I mean, I have an opinion and my opinion could be wrong and that's okay. Excuse me, but that's my opinion. But yeah, so that was the top 10. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was number 10. I would say that and Oppenheimer are the only serious films inside of that. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 legitimate superhero movies. You've got a 2-part in Dune. You've got a second movie of Top Gun Maverick, which was fine. It was fun.
Yeah. Again, I thought it was a fun movie. I
Good
thought it was a good
job
movie.
in things. And I'm trying. I think I have seen Soul, and it was good. It was fine. It wasn't anything to write home about. You get past that, you've got The Father, The Gentleman, with McConaughey and Charlie Hunnam and guys like that, and that whole movie, very shoot 'em up action thing. Poor Things, John Wick, chapter 4 is number 14, and then 15 is All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, so I think in the top 15 movies, you have like 4 movies that I would consider actual like emotional driven films. You've got a whole bunch of comic book stuff. And again, and this doesn't pull in 2025. And I think that this story aligns more inside of a modern space telling of Castaway and I Am Legend than it does comic book films. So, but again, I can totally see why you see it the way you do. But yeah, that was interesting when you sent that. I thought, man, like that's just funny how different people are inside of their thinking and thoughts on that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, really looking forward to the Odyssey coming out this summer.
Is that this summer or is that November?
I like to hold on to summer as long as I can.
Oh, that's a long hold, man. That's actually
I don't know when it comes
almost
out.
back in winter.
Usually they release those things in summer, the big blockbusters, but maybe I'm just out of touch and out of date.
I'm gonna have to look that one up, and so I know that there's a couple of things coming out. It is this summer. July 17th is what it's saying. You are correct. There's a couple of things releasing in November, and must have them flipped. I don't go to the theater a ton, and things get to streaming so quickly that that I'm able to catch some stuff that way a little faster than normal. So, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Here's the one thing I will say. I love where we live, and you and Melissa tend to go like, oh, it's so crazy cold, and Amanda and I are like, I love it when it's cold, and you all are grumpy, and so you and I both, like our houses, you and Amanda are always kind of like, oh, it's so cold, I'm gonna be I love Vegas weather, and Melissa's always like, I love Georgia weather, and I'm like, oh man, I love 4 seasons, and this is awesome. But right now, literally 2 nights ago, we were sitting on a baseball field and we had heaters out and winter jackets on. Last night, people were in shorts and t-shirts.
Wow.
24 hours apart in the same community. It wasn't like we drove 3 hours. We drove 20 minutes to Greenville, and we played a game in Johnson City last night, and 20 minutes apart, 24 hours apart, and we had heaters and winter jackets on.
This is why you're coughing.
It is. Hence, I was going to say I'm going to do my best to drink enough water to keep this down for the show. But hey, last week we started a conversation, and I admittedly said I am not the smartest person inside of this conversation in this room. I keep up with politics from what people say and things like that. I don't always get super deep in the weeds with a lot of the conversations we had last week when you talk about oil and Hormuz Strait and some of these other places and things. And like we were talking before the show about, man, if we were doing man on the street, and I said, I think if you went up and said the word Hormuz to 100 people, I think 20 of them would think it's the canned chili that you put on your hot dog at a cookout. Which is Hormel, of course, if anybody's wondering, like, what chili is he talking about? We make homemade chili. Oh, we don't. We use the canned stuff. And so I think that our world is something where the internet has brought things to us at a way different pace and level. But we tend to kind of make decisions based off of 30-second TikTok or Instagram or Facebook Reels or stories or something like that, and not so much really doing our homework. And you said last week, like, you're not and we apparently don't know any geopolitical people that could come in. And I probably said that wrong. You can correct me in a second, but we don't know any people that we could get in here. So we're going to finish the conversation with, hey, why this stuff matters and where's some hope and things like that. But is there anything kind of coming out of last week that you just want to quick refresher, something that you thought about that you're like, hey, I would like to do, quick, I felt like maybe I should have given a little more time to this.
Last week we created a lot of tension. We spent a lot of time talking about the situations and how they make us feel, how they can make people around us feel, the uncertainty and what you do with uncertainty, the feelings, the emotions, how you process that, why it is important from my perspective that we're aware, that we understand what's going on, especially when you're in any kind of leadership position, whether that be in your business or even with your kids, that you're at a place to be able to answer questions, point and direct. And even if you don't know all the answers, that you can at least point and direct them in the direction towards truth and towards hope, I think is the biggest thing in peace. My hope was that now a week later, having sitting down after last week, that we'd be able to come in and say, we can just completely scratch this episode because everything's taken care of. And sadly, we're not there. We are sitting on the deadline of this ceasefire that the president has now said he's going to extend this, but there have been some more conflicts, some more tensions that have risen in the strait over the course of the last week, in that region over the course of the last week. The United States is getting pressure from some other countries. Pakistan has come in and is trying to play mediator and peacemaker in all of this. And there's hope, I think, that a deal is going to get done, that something's going to happen. But we're not there yet. And so there is kind of still this overlying tension of what's going to take place, what's going to happen. In all honesty, in the next 24, 48 hours could be really big for this situation. And so I think what we want to do today is not add on to the fear, to the stress, to the tension, to the anxiety that maybe some of our listeners are feeling. You asked me, how does this make me feel? And I said, it just feels heavy. There's just a weight to it. And we saw over the last week that gas prices came down a little bit. The stock market rebounded a little bit. So some of the financial things that were stressing a lot of people have eased a little bit, but not noticeably, not drastically. And like we said last week, I think we're probably still quite a ways off from that. We keep sending troops to the region, not putting boots on the ground quite yet, but being prepared in case this thing does escalate. And so there's still that tension. There's still that weight, that heaviness that I think a lot of people are feeling. And so today we don't want to continue just to put on to that weight, just to add on to that. Today we want to kind of change the pace, shift a little bit there, and say, what do we do with all of this? How do we live our lives in a way that isn't full of anxiety and stress? How do we not panic over this? But how do we live our lives in a way of hope? What should we actually be doing in moments like this?
Yeah, I think one of the ways you say it, you've said it before, and is that we can't control outcome, but we can live wisely and prepare responsibly.
Yeah. So how do we prepare?
Yeah. And so you said the word a second ago, like, how do we not be panicked? And every time I hear the word panic, I think of Chicken Run, the old Mel Gibson claymation movie. And it's like, everybody panic. And the chickens start running around. And I think that's how we live our life a lot inside of these types of situations. It's I just went blank. The radio broadcast, War of the Worlds, the guy that that was read, and people literally thought the sky was falling. I mean, it was this weird, tense moment from this radio broadcast, and I think that, like, we get to this place that everyone panics, and we get to a really tense space. And so, what does it look like in your mind, and maybe just in your heart, and as you look at Scripture and things like that, to be prepared without being panicked?
Yeah, I think you have to be aware. You need to be aware, but you need to not let fear drive your decision making. And we tend to do that, right? You just go and look at the lines at a gas station that are around the block. You go and you check anytime that we know that there's even the possibility of a big snowstorm. You go and you can't find any bread or milk at the grocery store. We tend to let fear drive our decision making, and we need to not do that.
I remember in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, sitting in a high school gym watching a game, and people started coming in and just going, gas prices are getting ready to go up $1, $2. I mean, and back then gas was probably $1.40 a gallon, something like that. And people were just like, it's getting ready to go to $2.50, $3 because of something that was going on. And I remember like even Melissa came, got my keys, left, went and filled my car up and brought it back. Like everybody was leaving the game, going and filling up their cars and coming back. And honestly, it's been pushing 30 years. I don't remember what happened and what went on there and things like that. But I think that's one of those moments and spaces that we can get panicked. But it's also a thing, Tony, like I think about like a lot of people are salaried employees, or one of my kids works at just a store, like in a mall type place. And they were like, yeah, the owner cut everybody one shift. And Mel was like, what happened to the people who only have one shift? And he's like, they don't have a shift anymore. And so like a lot of times, even if you're hourly employee or your salary and things get tight, people start to cut back. I think about like my parents at late in their life, they were on a fixed income. I've got friends that are on fixed incomes, and I have the ability, I have a whole office at home, 15 bookcases full of books that I can, and honestly, it's easier to work from there a lot of times. If gas gets really, really, really expensive, and I feel like I can just work a day from home, but a lot of people don't have that. So how can people make wise financial decisions without fear driving them?
The simple thing, there are practical things, and then there are philosophical things, right? So practically, everyone can look and cut some things out of their budget if money is getting tight. And when you look at even just simple, you talked last week about how the price of filling up your car has doubled from $30 to $60.
Yeah.
And so $30, if you're having to gas up once a week, you're looking at $150 to $200 a month. That's a big dent on a lot of people's household budget.
Yeah, I had 60 cents a gallon off the other day and was under a quarter of a tank. So I had most of my car to fill up, and it still cost me over $50. I mean, and like almost $60. And I'm like, it's just crazy to think about in the world that we're living in.
But you told me the other day, you guys made some pretty drastic changes in your household that you went to ads on your streaming services from the no ad plan, and it saved you like $200 a month.
It was $200, but it was like $250 a year. It ended up coming like $25 a month. We did switch Netflix. Netflix was the big one. I mean, when you've got one streaming plan that's like $12 a month, that it saves you off the hit. But yeah, we did. What was it? You like, man, what's it like to live like yeah, I mean, so it was a good world, man. We lived it for a while and it was awesome. But yeah, no, I think we do. You have to make decisions, and you think about the fact if you take $25 a month and your gas goes up $25 a month, that's a no brainer. And cutting off Netflix is an option. If the world gets that hard, Tubi and Pluto and other things, they're free. I mean, they're free options out there. I mean, we can cut off stuff. I don't have to watch TV. It's not a necessity. The world will go on. I think Jesus and those guys lived a whole life without any television, and I think I'll be okay.
I listened to a podcast a couple of weeks ago when there was even more uncertainty in this situation than there is now. And this guy was an expert on global economics, and he was talking about some of the things that we talked about last week, the long-term ramifications that this could have, not only on gas prices, but on fertilizer and helium, and what all this difference makes, and how we could see a global shortage of food, and that there could be global famine. And he was really going deep down this road. And the podcast host asked him, what should people do? What is something that people could do? And he said, if you have the opportunity to go to solar power, because you could see this affecting the power grid. And so if you can go solar power, if you have enough land to garden and grow your own food, you will be Steve Jobs, you will be Bill Gates in this world if this thing escalates and you have the ability to grow your own food when food is not available. And so I came home and I told my wife, I'm like, all right, where do we find the money to put on solar panels? We've got this section over here. I know what we're doing this weekend. We're going to rent a tiller. She's like, whoa, pump the brakes, husband of mine. And so you have to have.
At least she still called you husband in that moment.
Yeah, you in these moments, we tended to say, oh, wow, let me go quickly fill up. I saw someone at the Sam's Club the other day. I was getting gas because I was below a quarter tank and I needed it. And there was a guy in the truck in front of me that was filling his tank, and then he had probably 10 5-gallon
gas cans.
Yeah, and he's filling them all up because there's this fear that and I actually was sitting there and he said, got to be prepared. I'm like, prepared for what? I mean, okay, I get it, but you have to make decisions based on wisdom and on reality and not off of fear. And I was right there. They're like, hey, we're renting a tiller and we're going to garden. What can we garden? I even did some research, what crops grow best in our region with our soil type. And what I didn't go so far as to placing an order for a generator or solar panels to put on my roof. But I thought about it and like, hey, okay, take a step back, assess the situation, look at reality. What's really happening? What are the odds of this? And be thinking, okay, if this does turn a certain direction, what needs to happen? But don't go jumping off a cliff.
So I made the joke about at least she still called you husband, but like I can be a little bit that same way. Like I think I almost damaged some relationships in my house with my wife and kids. And just reading some books and listening to things online.
By adding ads on Netflix?
No. They all were like, my family is so used to that from watching YouTube. It was actually a bigger deal for me than it was them. And I grew up with commercials. I just have to act like it's 1996 again, not 2026. But like in this whole space, like there's moments where I look and go, cell phones are ruining our life. We're going to cut them all. We're going to get a landline. We're going to cut cell phones off at 5 o'clock every day and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And my family kind of goes, and Mel will be like, pump the brakes. Like, Robert, you can't do that to this family. And I'm going, why not? It would be better. And it might be. And honestly, putting solar panels on our houses might be better. It could do a whole lot of really good things. But the reality comes down to that sometimes it isn't good to make decisions out of like fear, like you're talking about here, fear and panic and worry. Why in moments like this though? And I was just thinking about this when you were talking there. Do stressful times like this damage relationships? Yes. So you and I are fortunate that we have incredible wives that can walk our crazy off the cliff a little bit. But like everybody, like you're not always in a situation. If you and I had a business together and you're a touch more like, hey, let's go get it and let's just get it all pan out, and I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon over here going, let's hoard up all our nickels, and we would have a lot of tension. It would fracture that relationship if we didn't find a way to work together. So sometimes in family you can figure it out, although really stressful times create real tension inside of families. Why does panic and this type of living oftentimes damage relationships?
In any area of life, stress shortens patience. When you're stressed out, your patience gets strained. And when you have someone like me who's already, when we talk about the fruit of the spirit, patience is one of those fruits that I haven't harvested very well. But when you add stress to the situation, patience becomes shortened. And so when patience is shortened, then we're more reactionary, we're more defensive, we're less understanding in those situations. And so, and that is going to spill over into the relationships with the people that are closest to us.
So what do people do? Like, what's some practical ways to stay grounded in those moments and of high stress in our relationships and high stress in our world and in our community and in our house, hometown?
Yeah, we actually just did a whole episode on this a couple of months ago. And for me, I would say make sure that you're not living in your phone. And that's hard for me because I want to check the stock market. I want to see what's happening with interest rates. I want to see what's taking place. Has there been anything that's happened in negotiations? And so I have to really be careful to limit my intake. When I start working in the morning, I want to turn on headline news and see what's going on. And I have to limit that because we tend to let the talking heads dictate our thoughts and therefore dictate our mood. And so I think simple things like limiting your news intake, taking time to just disconnect from everything that's going on and be present in the world around you is a big start.
Is there anything you would say outside of limiting devices and things like that we should not do?
Don't go put solar panels on the roof of your house.
Well, maybe you should if you've been planning on that for a while and it's a big process and things. But yeah, no, I get it.
I know a person that, not well, but it's someone
that will remain nameless.
They will definitely remain nameless. That it's over the course of the last month, and maybe there are reasons that go beyond what they're posting on social media. But according
it's definitely
to
not
social
you.
media,
You said they posted on social media, so I thought it might be you. Like, I'm speaking for a friend.
Yeah, definitely not because I'm sitting here. Yeah. But this person actually sold their house and moved to another country.
Oh wow!
They said I'm out. Can't do this anymore. And that's a pretty rash decision.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. And so don't sell your house. Don't pack up. Don't move. I would say don't put solar panels on your roof now.
And again, maybe that was the right decision for this friend of yours or acquaintance, however you were connected on social media. But like, we tend to make some really big decisions sometimes, and our response is sometimes shaped more, by what we're anchored to than what we're facing. And if we're anchored to fear and stress and anxiety, like, it tends to cause us to make some really, really hard decisions. So when we look at all this, like, our response a lot of times is shaped more by what we're anchored to, the things that, like, the stress, the worry, the anxiety. When we anchor ourselves to that, we make decisions. And again, I'm not saying anybody's making a wrong decision by putting solar panels or moving to another country or something like that. But when we do those things and we're anchored to something that is not, that maybe is a little more volatile, what are the things what are most people most tempted to place their trust in right now? Maybe the thing I'm trying to say.
I would think that most people tend to put their trust into leadership.
Yeah.
Or systems, outcomes, that this is going to happen, just hoping that one of those things will get it right and it will fix things.
So, okay. Like, let's just be let's be kind but let's be transparent here as well. Like, leadership right now feels confusing.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels.
Yeah.
I think even if you voted for, whether it's Republican or Democrat, whether it's, regardless of what it is, like, there's some statements and things being made and stuff right now that it feels confusing and frustrating. How do we stay grounded? Like, how do we lean into this type of stuff when it feels this way and it's so complicated?
There's only one leader that is ultimate, right?
Yeah, well, you and I feel this way. Everybody listening may not, but you and I feel this way.
There's only one system.
Unless I think ultimate. You're going the way you're going. I think
I'm going the way that you're going.
Yeah.
And so we have to remember that no elected official has all the right answers. No system has everything figured out perfectly. And if you can understand that humans are human, their systems are flawed. Even the greatest systems, we've spent way too much time on this show talking about AI. And even AI has these things that I just recently read about, hallucinations, that they will get things wrong. So systems get things wrong. And if we can understand, if we can zoom out, take the view from 30,000 feet and understanding that that no leader is ultimate, no system is ultimate, then that helps us to maybe keep from riding that emotional roller coaster.
Okay, that seems so much easier said than
It really does.
done.
It does.
And here's the thing. Like this past Sunday, you had a chance to get out of town, which was awesome. And I was preaching this past Sunday, and we're in a series just talking about the importance of God's word. And I was talking about how to study the Bible. So I took a passage that people kind of know in Philippians 2, and I did a whole bunch of like preacher joke type things to help people understand, it starts out with therefore at the beginning of chapter 2. It's like, when you hear the word there, maybe it's an independent Baptist preacher joke. You guys probably didn't do stuff like this at cool Las Vegas churches, but like, you hear the word therefore, what's it there for? And so I worked through those things of like, hey, why is this here? And how can we, when we sit down to open up the scripture? But one of the words in this is talking about Jesus, who being in very nature God, didn't consider equality with God something to be grasped, but took on the very nature of a servant. Humility is mentioned like 3 times in these 8 verses, kind of working through this. What does humility look like in a loud, reactive? And again, I know I probably just kind of quoted the verses that you got in your notes, but like, what does it look like to live this out? and honestly, Tony, to be able to start to trust again a little bit in some of these things.
It looks like not having to be the loudest voice in the room. It looks like not being reactionary to everything that happens. I love looking at the life of Jesus in this. So many times, everywhere he went, he had the people that should have been his biggest supporters, that should have been his number one fans, following him around, criticizing him, trying to trip him up, holding late night meetings to figure out, how can we get this guy? How can we get him to contradict something that he said? How can we get him to make a statement that's going to turn the people against him? How can we trip him up? They would devise plan after plan after plan, and they would go and they would just annihilate him, attack him. And Jesus would just stand there. And he didn't have to be the loudest voice in the room. He was never reactionary to anything that they said. He would simply just, most of the time, answer their question with a question, turn it back on them. And every time they walked away, it was clear who the smartest person in the room was. It was clear who had control of the situation. It was clear who had a plan and a strategy for what was needing to take place and who didn't. And it wasn't the one who was reactionary. It wasn't the one whose voice needed to be louder. And in a world that is so filled with noise, everyone wants to have the loudest voice. And maybe true humility is simply just saying, I don't need to react to what's taking place here. Simply just need to stop and soak it all in, evaluate, look at what's taking place around me, and then come up with a good plan and not just be so reactionary and loud to everything.
It's I've heard different leaders talk about, what do you do when you realize you're the most powerful person in the room? And they don't mean that in a negative way. Like there's rooms inside of this human world that even if we know, trust, and believe that God is the most powerful person in every room we walk into, that people are looking to us as leaders sometimes. And what do you do when you're the most powerful person in the room? And it always comes back to, when people are talking about that from the perspective of Jesus, you're not the loudest. He took on the nature of a servant. He humbled himself. The last will be first. And those are things that Jesus constantly did. He cared for. I was listening to a sermon this past week, and the guy was talking about, he said, it's not wrong that when people come to Jesus that we go, do you believe in, that God is the creator of the world? Do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that he lived a perfect life, that he was crucified, died, buried, rose again? And do you believe all those things? And he said, And like the old church asked that, the original church asked, and we should be asking that. But he said, the thing that we miss the gap on in today's world is they used to, in an equal statement, almost like Jesus said, they said, what's the greatest command? He said, love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. He said, but the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. They said they would ask these questions inside of the early church and going, are you caring for orphans and widows? Are you meeting the needs of the poor? And if you answered no to those, it wasn't like, okay, you can't follow Jesus, but like, you got to fix that. Like, that's like saying you don't believe God is the creator of the world, that Jesus died on the cross. Like, your actions should like show these things. And I think that's such a complicated thing inside of humility. And so when you think about faith practically, and you've kind of answered this, like, how does it shape your mindset? But maybe even on top of that, what does it look like to have peace when we don't have all the answers?
Our faith reminds us that peace isn't tied to our circumstances. It's not tied to outcomes of what takes place in an election. It's not tied to results of what takes place in peace negotiations. Our faith grounds us in the fact that our circumstances don't dictate our peace. That is controlled by someone. I love what you were just talking about. I love this passage in scripture where this young guy comes to Jesus and he wants to follow Jesus, and Jesus says, come and follow me. And he says, first, let me go bury my dad. And Jesus says, let the dead bury their own dead. Come and follow me. And when we first read that, if you don't understand the context and the culture behind Judaism in that time, and understand that what the guy is actually saying is going to be about a year-long process to wait for his dad's body to decompose so that he can go back and get the bones and put them in the bone box and then bury the bones, which is actually the final burial site. And so when he's saying this, what he's saying to Jesus is, hey, I want to do this, but I'm trying to put this off for about a year.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, what are you waiting on? Come on, let's do this now. Let's get going. And I think so often in our lives, especially in moments of tension and stress and anxiety, we say, okay, I understand that this is where I need to be, but I've got to take care of these things first. I've got to make sure that I've got the solar panels on. I've got to make sure that I've got at least the corn is starting to sprout a little bit. The tomato plants are budding a little bit. I've got to wait until I get this amount, 3 months of income in the bank.
Yeah.
And until I can really feel peace, until I can really feel a sense of calm about me, I've got to make sure that I get all of these things done. And Jesus is just saying, just remain in me. Just remain in me. Just be here. And I give a peace unlike anything that the world can give.
And
Don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't be afraid.
I've got so many thoughts, and I think some of it it challenges me in the whole idea in this of, because I mean, you and I are guys that are very fortunate, and we've got a lot of things that we can do and a lot of skill sets, and it's easy to sit down and go, oh, I'm going to do this today and I can make an extra $50, or I can do this and go make an extra $100 or something. And we can always look at ways to add and do things. And I think that's how we live our life, is we go, God, when I really need you, I'll step into this, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to worry and stress, and I'm going to find ways that I can grind this out. And when all else fails, when the world comes to an end and there is nothing else I can do, I can't do one more photo shoot, I can't tell one more story, I can't do anything else, then I'll come and I will leave everything. I'll let the dead bury the dead. I'll sell everything I've got and I'll come follow you. And God wants us to follow him when things feel good, when things feel easy, when we feel like we have some control, just as much is when we feel like things are out of control. And I think that's one of the things that for me, in my mind, kills so much peace, is we think, oh, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. I can do A, B, C, D, and E, and I can fix everything. And at the end of the day, those things end up creating a ton of stress and tension, which is really this antonym of peace
Yeah.
that removes this thing from us. So go ahead. No,
It's
go.
important
Yeah.
to say that I know that we've got some listeners to our show that are not, would not call themselves Christians.
Mhm.
They're not people of faith at all. And so you're listening to this, hearing what we're saying, and you don't understand it. Here's the bottom line is that we are able to say these things not because we know everything. But
If they knew me, they would know that is not the truth.
But it's because we trust something deeper.
Yeah.
And that gives a sense of peace that my hope is not found in an elected official. My hope is not found in a resolution taking place. My hope is found in something deeper. And so without that, the uncertainty, I think, becomes overwhelming. The anxiety, I think, becomes totally consuming. And I don't know how you live. And I love that Paul says we mourn, but we mourn not as those that have no hope. And in these moments that are so full of weight, so full of tension, without that hope, without that faith in something deeper, I don't know how you don't panic. And you don't say, because I don't have all the answers, now I need to follow all of these steps to try to solve to try to create the solution for myself, because I don't have the faith, the trust, the hope in the leaders that I see in front of me to create that resolution for me.
So with all of this, it starts to kind of come to this thing of, like, for somebody like me, and I might be the minority in this, it just starts to be this constant spiral in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I start overthinking things and working through all this stuff. And you and I both have talked about on the show before, we talk about privately, like, we've got to be intentional about what shapes our thoughts. And you've talked about this inside of cell phones and media that we consume and things. But what's some boundaries inside of those that we need around the news and the information we're taking in, like, right now in our life?
Yeah, I'm amazed at the amount of time that people are spending on social media. I saw a study just the other day. Actually, it was yesterday, that it was on something that I was listening to, that said that that Barna just released a study that the amount of time, the number of days that you spend in scripture has a direct correlation with your levels of stress and anxiety. And so if you're spending zero, and the key is 4 days. If you're spending 4 days a week, 10 to 15 minutes in scripture, scientifically, they're seeing that 4 days a week, not every single day, but 4 days a week, 10 to 15 minutes reading the Bible, drastic implications on your mental health, your emotional well-being, just by doing that one little step. And so I think that take 15 minutes of your day to cut back from your doom scrolling on your phone and pick up a Bible, read it. I know it sounds trivial. It sounds simple, but there is documented proof of what it can do for your mental, your emotional, your spiritual well-being.
So I've got a couple of thoughts here, and I'm maybe combining a couple of things that you've got in your notes, but, like, man, it's hard to step away from the noise. Like, we are so conditioned. People have hand problems because they hold their phones and they do this little number of scrolling all day long. And we face these struggles and tensions of, like, it's hard to step away from the noise. But how do you know when you've had too much? Like, how do you know when
your mood shifts, right? I mean, your mood shifts in it. You begin to feel all the things that we've been talking about. You begin to feel more anxious. You begin to feel more frustrated, more on edge. When I know that I'm feeling tense, that I'm getting stressed out or anxious, I am much more on edge. And it doesn't show with the people that I'm having meetings with. It shows with the people that live in my home.
Oh,
That
yeah.
I'm on edge with my kids. I'm much more on edge with my wife. And I know, okay, I'm letting outside influences affect my well-being.
When you're starting to say, everyone else says I'm fine, why do you have a problem with me? It's probably a moment in time that you should be looking at. I mean, because that's where I'm at. Like everybody I'm around, I mean, like you're an anomaly because you and I spend enough time together that like we can both kind of start to tell. And unfortunately, some days we walk in and you go, we don't have enough time to talk about what's going on. And typically we try and grab a coffee a couple days later. And it's like, hey, how you doing? What's going on inside of there? But like the vast majority of people, even people at work, like you can cover it up for a couple hours a day or 20 minutes in that meeting, but you can't cover it up at home 24/7 when you finally let the guard down. And that is such a hard way to go about this. And so like Tony, for you, you're one of the most disciplined people I know. I might be one of the least disciplined people I know. Like you're like Craig Groeschel level almost. Like you get up there and you'll start habits and you'll do things and we talk about it's almost obsessive, like what you'll do inside of those types of things. What habits have helped you reset mentally and emotionally? Because you're the type of person that would set a habit. I know you said scripture reading, and I'm sure that's on your list as well. But what's along with that? What's some other things that you've done that's helped you reset your mind?
Things that bring you back to reality.
Like back to life. Back to reality. Yeah, that song.
Who is that? Is
I
that
don't remember.
In Vogue? Is
Yeah,
that
maybe.
In Vogue?
I don't know, man. I'm so old.
Whatever
Song.
you want, whatever you need. I think that might be In
We just
Vogue,
lost every listener right there. We break out into
except for the In Vogue fans.
yeah, the 3 fans of that show, that song. I mean, go
Yeah,
for it.
I think things that bring you back to reality. Get outside. We've talked about this
Oh,
so
my
many
goodness.
times on past episodes. I love to just. I this past week, me and my wife got to drive 6 hours to our condo in Myrtle Beach, in North Myrtle Beach, and sitting on our porch. I actually sent you a picture
You did.
of sitting
Of
on our
your
porch
dirty feet
of the ocean.
overlooking the ocean.
And I told yesterday, we drove back yesterday and we kept delaying leaving. She had a meeting. And so she sat overlooking the ocean doing her Zoom meeting. And I just grabbed a glass of pineapple mango juice and went and sat on the porch and knew that I had to drive back home today. And when she got done with her meeting, we were delaying as long as we could before we had to get in the car and drive back. And I just said to her, I said, it brings everything into perspective. Just sitting here looking out at the vastness of the ocean. And we went, there was I don't even remember what it was called, a super tide or something like that she was reading. My wife's favorite hobby is hunting for seashells. She just loves hunting for seashells. And so they had this super tide that was taking place, that there was risks of flooding, and it was it's starting to go back down at like midnight, 1 a.m. And I said, let's go for it. Let's go do it. She said, we're not going out walking on the beach at 1 a.m. I said, sure we are. And so we went out at 1 o'clock in the morning with our flashlights on our phones, and we found massive conch shells that you never find. So many of them that we couldn't hold on to them. And she's picking them up and she's looking at the detail and she's researching what causes them to create. And she just said probably 4 or 5 times, how can you look at this and not believe that there's something bigger than us? How can you look at the design and the intricacy and the beauty and all of this? And thousands of them spread out across the seashore. Looking at the vastness of the ocean and all of the world, a complete other world that lives underneath the surface of those waters. How can you look at this and look at this shell and not feel something, not know that there's a creator, that there's got to be something, this isn't just random chance that caused this. And looking at our simplicity in the midst of the majesty and the creativity of God just resets some things. It causes you to really take a step back and see the reality of the world that we live in. And despite comments that are made, despite decisions that are made, that it comes back to this, that we were created by a creator who deeply desires a relationship with us.
Yeah.
And outside of that just brings a peace. It brings a perspective to life that you can take a little bit deeper breath. You can have a little bit deeper understanding of the world around you. And the small, insignificant amount that we play in such a large, massive story that's being written all around us. And for me, even just going and spending 10, 15 minutes sitting on my front porch and looking out over the beauty of the world around me that I get to see every single day is something that recenters me. Some people might call it meditation. For me, I just call it being present in the world that's all around me, that I tend to fly by so quickly that I don't notice all of the signs of God all around us, all of the signs of his promises that surround me every single day.
I love everything you said. And as I was just thinking about this, like one of the thoughts that you'd put together inside of this is, what would it look like to guard your mind this week? And I've mentioned before, like I enjoy watching Big Bang Theory. Mel and I, we just kind of, the background noise has been Friends recently. And those shows and so many others get down this path of like, oh, the creation story isn't real. It's a Big Bang Theory, or it's this or this, and all these things. And there's no need for a God, because, things just evolve, and it happened. And there was a cell that led to another cell that led to another cell, that here we sit with everything we have. And one of the things I was thinking about, and I would love to hear your thoughts, because I was just processing through what you're going through. And I was thinking about watching a couple of these episodes on some of these shows recently, especially in Big Bang Theory, because if you go back and watch Young Sheldon, there's a whole line. His mom, Sheldon's mom, is a Christian, of what we would tend to think of typical Southern Christians from the 80s. And so it's very church attendance Christian, and, hellfire God, not a lot of grace and love and mercy in there. And so you see those things, and I go, my life functions based on the fact of what I'm consuming. I find my mind drifting to the things that I'm watching. If there's certain shows, I find myself thinking about the lines in those shows. I tend to quote those shows. I think I was watching a lot of Adam Sandler at one point in time, and for like a week and a half, I only responded to Melissa in Adam Sandler gifs. I mean, and so it was every time she sent something for a week and a half, if I could do it without sending words, I would send. That's the only response that she would get, was a random, like, Adam Sandler meme or gif or something like that, and that I would do. And so the reality is, Tony, is like what we consume and what we take in shapes our minds. And the vast majority of us are only taking in, like I saw a thing the other day, I think I shared it with you. Our playlist is discipling us a lot more than the church and scripture is. Like what we listen to on our Spotify or Apple Music playlist is discipling us. What's on repeat on Netflix and Disney and Hulu and Paramount and Peacock and Apple TV and all the stuff, that's discipling us a whole lot more. And it's especially discipling us more if we're never opening the scriptures, if we're never taking times to be silent and meditate on who God is and what he does, why he loves us, and what we should be doing to show that same love for him. And so my question would be, is kind of inside of that, like, what would it look like to guard your mind this week?
I wish that I could be more like you. I really do. I'm envious of.
I'm nervous to hear what you're getting ready to say.
No, you said, we talked a lot more about this last week's episode, but you don't know a lot of what's going on. You don't watch the news. You don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I wish that I could, because I think that my mind would be a much calmer place if that were the case. I need to know things. But what's funny is that over the course of these last few days, is my wife and I were gone, that I had 2 full days where I didn't check anything. We didn't watch the news at all. The TV was never on. And it was amazing how present I was in those couple of days. And so I think that it's recognizing that your peace is worth protecting. And sometimes that protection may come at the expense of information.
Yeah.
But what is that information doing to you? Is it really necessary? Is it something that you really need?
It might be not that it's coming at the price of information. It might be changing the information you get.
Great thought.
I mean, I was just thinking about what you're saying there. I agree with you 100%. It comes at the cost of information that might make you feel in the know. But if you replace that with information that God says, in this world you have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. Like we have this hope that we have this peace in him and through him that changes who we are.
But at the same time, there are things that I think we've talked about for 2 weeks. It's important that we're informed. And so what's the line between being informed, being obsessed, between being knowledgeable and being overcome with stress and anxiety because you're consuming it so much that it's taking control?
Can like you? I think you and I can agree that line is different for every person on the planet. Almost like there are probably 100 different groupings of, like, some people can handle almost nothing, and some people can handle a great amount. And I think that's the thing, is that, like, we all have a different ability to take things in, and our responsibility, if you are a high capacity person when it comes to, like, I'll call it news culture, not necessarily like pop culture, but news culture, and you're a high capacity person in that, I believe your responsibility is to consume that and to kindly, with gentleness and respect, share that information to help others who maybe like me don't listen to it as much, or people who have a lot of it. Like, I could listen to it and it wouldn't affect me, but like people who can't listen to it because it puts them into a really dark place, you have an opportunity to be a world changer for so many people if you can use it. And, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, you know, that whole space. So
every morning I get, this is something really practical that maybe is helpful for some of our listeners if you tend to bend more like me, and maybe if you tend to bend more like you, because I think this is something that could be really helpful for you in your role. That every morning I get 2 emails. I get one from CNN, I get one from USA Today, that are 5 things you need to know today. And it takes literally 3 minutes to read through them. And if you want to go deeper on any of the 5, they have links where you can go and find out more. But so it's usually about 7 or 8, because they'll have 2 or 3 of them that overlap. And you don't need to do both. I do both just because I'm neurotic like that. But,
and I would recommend, if you want something that's maybe, and I feel like they do a really good job. I know everybody says this, that's not giving a side of things, but just giving you information and then connecting it to what Scripture would say. It's called the Pour Over. They do an email. They have an app, I believe, that just dropped. I don't use the app, but they also have a podcast, and the podcast is like 5 minutes. They tell you what's happening in the world, what Scripture says about that. And they just move to the next thing. They don't give commentary on it. Current event. Very, very common.
Never heard of that.
Called the Pour Over. I'll shoot you a link, and we can maybe drop that in the show note as well, that people can jump in. It's free to sign up for. They're an incredible organization that Mel and I have been using for several years. And so it helps me, and I don't use it, as you can tell, as much as I maybe should, but it is the thing that when I'm in a good rhythm, it's, several days a week. It's not like it's every minute of every day, and it comes out in the mornings. You can grab it, listen to it about 5 minutes, and go from there.
Awesome.
Okay. So this has been super heavy.
It has.
This has been a lot, and we're going to probably end a little heavier than we normally do as well, but let's have some fun for a minute. I was working and put together some truth or trash this week. And so I'm actually going to ask you questions
I don't
today.
think this has ever happened before. I'm a little nervous.
It has never happened ever in the history of the world. And so cue up that theme music. Let's see what we got.
Time for truth or trash. Statement dropped. gut check time. Is it truth
You can't handle the truth.
or straight trash?
Trash.
All right, here we go.
All right, I'm in the hot seat this time.
I've got 9 questions.
9 of them. Let's see how many of them I can get right. 9 for 9.
Disney adults are a red flag.
Oh, trash. Disney's the most magical place on earth.
People who put their kid's name in their Instagram bio have lost their identity.
I don't know what that means.
It means that, like, when you go to Instagram and it has your name and then you tell things about yourself, like a biography, you list your kids' names under your biography.
Truth. Absolute truth. Yes. I would say truth on that.
Ranch,
Be your own person.
ranch,
Have your own identity.
ranch dressing is a crutch for people who are afraid of flavor. You want to say truth, but you think it's trash.
No, I think it depends on the circumstance. So I would truth adjacent.
I'll give it to you.
If something tastes bad, then I'm pouring ranch all over it. But
don't
if it
like
has great
ranch.
flavor, then it doesn't need it.
Yeah, there's some things I just like.
I
Like,
prefer blue cheese.
I'll put A1 on just about anything.
A1 is
I love A1.
Delectable.
And-
it is an amazing condiment.
Yeah, so it's good.
If there were a March Madness style 64 team bracket for condiments, A1 would be a 1 seed.
It would definitely. I think it would be. There's a lot of people probably disagree with that, but I think it would be.
And they are wrong.
And I think it at least makes the grade 8. I think it makes the eighth,
The Elite
seed.
Eight.
Yeah, Elite 8.
I always thought it should be called the Grade 8.
Grade 8,
Yeah.
like Grape 8 from the cartoon show from the 80s.
I thought about starting a petition with CBS that it should
Thanks
be
for
the
saying
Grade
the Elite
8.
I couldn't get it in there. The
Yeah.
double E, man.
But I agree with you that it should be the Grade 8.
All right. If you still make your bed every morning, you have control issues.
Trash.
I would disagree with that as well. Cargo shorts are a personality type, not a fashion choice.
Ooh. Truth.
I agree
Truth.
with that as well. I don't own a TV.
I can't. I've been missing out on our sound effects here.
It's all right.
I can't do both.
You
I
can't
can't
do both.
multitask.
That's what I tell you.
Ask my wife. I can't multitask this thing.
We're supposed to switch cameras, and I can't have
Yeah, we've got a
conversations.
4-camera shoot,
Yeah,
and I don't know that we've switched
we haven't
them at
switched
all.
the whole time. All right. I don't own a TV is the most insufferable thing a person can say at a dinner party.
Truth.
Camping is just being homeless, but on purpose and calling it a vacation.
Truth. But I enjoy camping. Don't do it, but I think I would enjoy it for a few hours.
People who are not a morning person are just undisciplined with their nights.
Absolutely truth.
And last, owning a Yeti cup does not make you an outdoorsman.
Truth.
There you go.
Because I own 2.
You survived my version of truth or trash.
Hey, I liked your version of truth or trash. That was very good. I enjoyed that. I prefer being the one that is asking the questions.
I bet you do. We'll
rather
switch it back.
than being the one asking. But
You can't handle the truth.
We will fix it next week, and we'll get you back on the asking seat and put me, hopefully a guest, on the hot seat. So, all right, is fear driving your life, or are we choosing how to respond? That's really what this all comes down to.
it really is.
It comes down to those types of things, and so you put together 5, I think, pretty thoughtful questions.
Yeah, questions that we just want our audience to think through. If
That
you're
we want
listening
to
to
think
this
through,
right
yeah.
now, that it's things that I think kind of summarize everything that we've talked about for the last 2 weeks. So 3 hours worth of conversation comes down to these 5 questions that ask yourself. Take some time, journal these a little bit, spend some time in scripture studying them, and really decide.
Yeah.
How would you answer these questions?
Yeah. And so before we read these, this is how we'll end the day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us on the show. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
All of those.
All of those. And so if you're listening to us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, Amazon podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, you can jump over to YouTube and watch this in video format as well. I think it's always fun. I always go and find, even if I listen to things on podcasts, I always go and find the podcast on YouTube to see what the people look like. So come see what we look like. Give the show a follow. Thanks
may
for what
never
you guys
watch
are
it
doing,
again.
and then just you can keep listening through podcasts and things if that's how you consume content.
What are you most afraid of right now? How is that fear shaping your thinking or your decisions? How are you feeding your fear, or are you confronting it? What would it look like to respond differently this week? And who do you want to be in a moment like this? Because here's the thing, you don't need to know everything to live wisely in something. So, like us, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you next week right here on the Pulpit and Porch.